Very good. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. So, as I was just saying before Jez started recording, but I'll just repeat it for the recording. This compassion practice is one of the, known as one of the four immeasurable, practicing one of the four immeasurable qualities, the others being loving kindness or maitri or metta that we did on Tuesday, sympathetic joy, which is the joy you get from somebody else's happiness, but it's in other words, it's reflected joy, and equanimity, which is going beyond being swayed by your emotions in some sense, being steady in the ups and downs of all the various events and emotional upheavals that we may encounter. And it also has the sense of being free of bias, free of prejudice. You treat everything as if it was, in some sense, all workable, all it's true acceptance of all experience. So tonight we move on from the loving kindness practice to the compassion practice. So I wanted to start by saying something about this quality of compassion. Hello and welcome if you've just joined. So what we're doing is by moving from loving kindness to compassion, we're extending this this giving quality that our heart possesses, this heart quality that communicates to others and wants to relate and empathize and feel the mind of others and experience of others. And the Maitri practice is basically working with the wish that others be happy, be content, be at peace, be fulfilled, experience good things with their life, experience good life. Compassion practice is based on the wish that others may be free of suffering, pain, worry, anxiety, hatred, anger, all the difficult experiences. Now, we're not fooling ourselves. We know that we will never be free of suffering. In fact, it's one of the very basic teachings of the Buddha that life inevitably and always includes suffering for everyone. There's no human being that was born that does not experience aging, sickness or illness of some kind, and ultimately death. These are basic realities of life. So the idea of compassion is not that we expect to be able to get rid of suffering, but that we are willing to engage with the suffering of ourselves, of others. And incidentally, that's why I made a verbal slip, that does include ourselves. And so in this, as I did mention on Tuesday, in this practice, we're going to also include ourselves at the beginning, because we are one of the all sentient beings that Buddhists like to talk about. May all sentient beings be free of suffering. So that's including ourselves. Compassion is a very natural, inherent quality of human beings. It's a natural feature of what we call the human heart. That's not to say that we always feel it. We don't always feel our heart. We don't always feel that our heart opens or can easily be opened. But it is inherent in us, it's natural, and it's always available if we can tune into it. And that's another way of looking at this practice. It's a way of tuning in to that heartfelt quality that empathizes with the difficulties and unhappiness and pain of everyone around us, of people around us. It's spontaneous, and very often it arises completely naturally and quickly before we even think about it. It's not like we have to say, now I'm going to be compassionate. And I always use this example of somebody falling over in the street because it's one that almost everybody has experienced. And before even thoughts arise, your heart is kind of leaps with the urge to help that person, to do something, to respond, whatever might help that person's momentary unhappiness or whatever they experience at that moment. Distress. Distress is the word. So that can happen very, very fast. And then there are two ways that we can react to that flash of feeling, or that compassion, that we call compassion. The way we would always like to react is to respond and then, if necessary, act by word or deed or by feeling that empathy and extending it to that other person. The other way, which is also very familiar, is to close down, is to back off, is to say, no, I can't go there. And that's especially true when the suffering we encounter, hear about, see, is very, very serious. That if the suffering that we encounter is too uncomfortable, too distressing to us, then closing down or backing off is a very natural protective mechanism that prevents us from being overwhelmed. And we all need that sometimes. We cannot always feel everything that our heart would be capable of feeling if it was completely wide open to everything we encounter. Especially at times where there is a lot of suffering in the world, such as in times of war, famine, or plague. And we are now in a time of plague. Plague, famine, and war are the three classic Buddhist descriptions of universal bad things that happen. And we're in one of them. And so we get a lot of reports in the media, a lot of stories of people who go through horrendous experiences. And then added on top of that as another layer, as if we needed it, was what happened in America a couple of weeks ago, and the resulting arising of the Black Lives Matter movement and the demonstrations. So there's been a lot for our heart to respond to handle. It's very important to realize that this instinctual, almost automatic reaction to close down when the stimulus is too much, is too much, more than we can handle. That we should not look down on this or what's the word? Deprecate it or condemn it or feel bad about ourselves or feel guilt. All these are also natural reactions, but they're secondary reactions to the primary and much more gut level experience of, I can't handle this, I have to back off, or I have to turn away, or I have to get on with something else, whatever form it takes. So it may be that the only way to avoid becoming traumatized ourselves by experiences we can't process is to take the easy way out. And therefore we shouldn't condemn ourselves for that. Nevertheless, we can aspire, we can wish for a heart that is more ready to open and a capacity within ourselves to be more able to work with, respond to, open to other people's pain and difficulty. And that's precisely why we have this practice. This is the path of awakening the heart. It's the path of warriorship, because a warrior is someone who's brave in the face of difficulty, who doesn't turn away, who goes into the pain or the difficulty of situations. A warrior is not just somebody who makes war. A warrior from the Shambhala point of view is somebody who is brave in the face of the vicissitudes of life, the difficulties of life. So the purpose of the practice is to gently encourage our ability to open more. And why we can do this in a practice is because we're doing it in a safe, protected space, the space of our own room, when we are on our own, and where we are in control of how much we take on, and where we have complete freedom to pull back at any moment that our practice confronts us too strongly, or we feel we might be in danger of being overwhelmed. So unlike in the battleground of life, to continue the warriorship image, here in this practice, we can control the intensity of the experience we create. We can't do that out in the world. So the way we're going to do it is we start, and as I said before, we're going to start with ourselves as the object as well as the subject of our compassionate thoughts. And so we start by bringing to mind something that we have experienced, that we find painful, distressing, upsetting, worry-making, unhappy-making, something that's happened to us that's very personal, that is to say, not some theoretical thing that, looks good on paper, but something that really is, something's happened to us, something we've experienced has made us suffer in some in some degree of suffering, in some sense of that word. So we think of something. The closer to the present time, the better, so that it's more real. But for some people, there's something that sticks out from the past that they would like to revisit. Now, I should warn you, don't be macho about this. Don't tackle something that is going to spin you into a kind of revisiting a trauma, or is going to trigger, as the modern parlance is, trigger some upheaval. Now, we don't always know when that might happen, but we probably can start with a pretty good idea. So we don't want to go that far. We're doing this practice for the first time, some of us, so we want to just go in gently. It's like with a swimming pool, go in at the shallow end. And then as you get more confident in the water, you can go deeper. On the other hand, if it's too shallow, you feel as though I'm not doing anything and nothing's really happening. So that's like going into the swimming pool where there's only an inch of water. Doesn't really get you very far. So we bring that thing to mind, and then, oh, I forgot the gong again. Why do I always forget the gong? Chris, can you bear with me? I'll get the gong. Ah, I didn't forget the gong, but I forgot that I remembered it. That's one of the signs of age. Here we are. So how we're going to do it, like last week, we will start with a couple of minutes of just settling quietly into our mindfulness practice, our mindfulness of breath, or whichever practice we do, shamatha meditation, or just being here, formless, just to get a nice, quiet, non-discursive moment or two. And I'll ring the gong to start that. And then I will cue you in. And the idea is that you start to think about, you've probably already started thinking about your experience, but you really bring it to mind. You make it as immediate for yourself as you can, and then you extend to yourself the wish that you be able to relate to that, that you, if it's an ongoing situation, that you could be free from that, or if it was in the past, that you could let that go completely, whatever is helpful to yourself. So you're being kind to yourself, you're being compassionate to yourself, and you're wishing, and again, you can use visualizations like imagining that you're flooding your heart with warmth or light, whatever is helpful. So now we're going to sit for a minute, and I will use the gong, which I have remembered. Okay, so now we bring our own personal experience to mind and feel it. Feel whatever emotions and experience that we had at the time or are having, if it's an ongoing experience, and then have the wish, may I be free from this suffering, this pain, this discomfort, whatever it is. May I be free from it, or may I be able to let it go. And now, gently, without just cutting your experience too abruptly, we're going to turn our attention to somebody, ideally somebody we know, that we know they are suffering or have a problem or are unhappy in some way about something, and spend a little time bringing that person to mind, their face, their voice, their situation, whatever it is we can identify that they're not happy about. And then wish that my friend or loved one or good neighbor, whoever it is, may he or she be free from that suffering. May he or she have some relief from it or be able to let it go. You can find your own words for that. And again, extend some sort of warmth of heart towards them. Remember, at any time that you feel that it's too much, you can always step back out of the practice. And the skillful way to do that is just to feel your body. You can do that while still sitting. Just feel your body or your breath. But if it's going fine, just stay with the experience. And if you get a little lost in thoughts, just come back with the thought, may my friend or loved one be free of suffering. And take it from there. Now we'll move on to the next step, which is to widen out our concern for others, to look, but move gently, don't rush, don't cut off what you were doing before. If it feels unfinished, continue with that. But we're moving on to extend to more people, and we start with just a few, maybe just one, another person that's come to mind, or a small group of people, or our family, or our household, our group of friends, the people in our street. We can slowly widen our concern. We may not know everybody's suffering, but we can be sure that there's something that's unsatisfactory or difficult in their lives. And we can wish that they be free of that. In my friends, acquaintances, neighbors, may they be free of suffering. And then gradually, for the final step of this practice, extend outwards from there to everybody in your area, or to everybody that you know, or to everybody in your work or your college, and outwards from there to everybody in your city. And just extend it outwards to many, many people. And the traditional phrase is, may all sentient beings be free of suffering. Just go as wide as you can without losing track of the feeling. And when you're ready, you can return to simply letting your mind rest, letting your mind loose. If you like to do shamatha or mindfulness practice, mindfulness of breath or of body, but just let your mind be very free. We do that for a couple more minutes, and then I'll ring the gong. Okay, now this is the time, Jez, that I'm going to invite people to share their experience. So if you want to end the recording, that's a good moment to do it.